like the Templars, and they're obsessed with the numbers and geometry and where things are. Well, so we're this whole that's what the template is. It's an understanding of all measured, earthly and celestial, and macroscopic and microscopic, and all the sciences. It's all together, and they left it here for humanity to recover and to bring back and hopefully utilize at a time when we really desperately need it, and with the hopes that we've matured enough to be moral in our compass, that we don't destroy ourselves once we figure this ancient story out of, where there were higher civilizations prior to us that have fallen, and we need to understand why they've fallen, and build on that. And that's what I hope a lot of this understanding is going to bring forth, and that's an understanding of, this is high science encoded here. This knowledge is all being planned from thousands of years ago to be gradually left out at certain intervals along the way, and working its way up to this cycle of the reset of the clocks.
Hello and welcome. I'm Bradley Young, and I'm here again with Edward G. Nightingale of the Template Research Group. And we're going to take a look at some of his most recent research, specifically into the site at Hawara in Egypt that has had some recent scans and been in the news, and coming up there's going to be more news. So Ed's going to show us how he does some of his measurements and tie it into some of the other sites possibly. If we don't get that tonight, there'll be more upcoming. We want to focus on Hawara. And Ed, you got a little summary for us to introduce us to the template, because a lot of people aren't going to be familiar with that. The Giza template. Ed's been working on this for 30 years. He's a high line woodworker to the stars. I guess we'll say that in multiple ways. There's some stories there that he can tell us in the future, and good friend of John Anthony West that got him started on this like 30 years ago. About the same time, really, that I started working with Randall Carlson. So we're going to talk to Ed tonight and learn what we can and introduce the template again and how it's used to show us some of those super special places that are being found at Hawara. Ed, welcome, buddy.
All right, great. Yeah, man, thank you. Yeah, so as far as the template goes, a lot of people might not be familiar with this work, but again, I started this about 30 years ago with an idea that Giza was a repository, a geometric architectural repository. So I've been working on that for about 30 years. But what it is, to be, technically what this template is, it's an ancient geometric metrological system that's encoded into the very layout of the Giza Plateau. That it consists of the Sphinx, the pyramids, and all the surrounding monuments. And it reveals very precise dimensions and radials and offsets and different angles and proportions that reflect the Earth's measurements and the celestial cycles and the measurements of the calendars. And these same patterns appear in different sites all over the world, literally all over the globe. We've looked at many here in Egypt, Brad, some of the sites you've visited, and we've measured those and calculated their distances and angles from Giza. But they're literally all over the world outside of Egypt. There's, in Mexico's Teotihuacan, and we've looked at places in multiple sites in Egypt, in the Osirian and Dendara, and different sites. We'll look at a couple of those maybe tonight if we get there. But I do want to point out the new uh, things we're going to be doing at Hawara. But as far as the template goes, what it does is it suggests that there is an ancient method for preserving and transmitting this cyclical knowledge across cultures and time. So it's a curriculum that's been handed down through the mystery schools and other secret societies that very well understand this template that was used to create Giza. And again, it encodes all the measuring system, the qubits. We've developed all that in our classes in the lambda sequence. It's all in my book too. The breakdown of all the qubits, which is the Earth measure part of the template, and then we get into the celestial aspect, which is essentially the two aspects of Giza is the Sphinx as Leo in the sky, and the Sphinx on the ground, the two uh, opposing as above, so below, and Orion being the three belt stars and the three pyramids. This really is based, the celestial aspect is based off the Orion correlation theory, that the three belt stars are the pyramids. Uh, but what I want to do here, there's been a lot of news with the new scans that have been released recently, and we can go into multiple ones. But here tonight, I think what I just want to break down is the Hawara. There's been a lot of exciting things happening on the Hawara research. So yeah, I want to give an example of how this template is used and the information that's encoded in it, and how we can almost see the fingerprints of this template in other sites. And the the template, if we look at it here in our Google Earth model, this is the template model that I had created. And it was from back engineering or reverse engineering the structures that were there. And I began with this point right here. That to me, as an artist, many years ago, I had viewed Giza in this manner. And I want to note here too that the cardinal directions are north is going to be to our right, and west is to the top of the page, south is to the left, and east is to the bottom of our page here. So that's
Okay,
how.
yeah, I can see that on the for others and me used to using Google Earth, right? You got your little directional up there in the upper right, so the north is pointing to the right, so you know how we're oriented there. If you get lost, you can always check that little when he's showing this particular screen, right? But that's a little reminder up there.
Yeah, yep. So um,
So east is down.
correct. Yeah. So right, east is down, and down here would be our Sphinx, and this is the blue is the Great Pyramid of Khufu. The red one is the Pyramid of Khafre, where they Khafre scans. That's kind of based on that center pyramid there, but obviously it's more things under all these pyramids. But then here's the third Menkaure pyramid, and so there's scan results from all of this. But we're going to cover that in another session, and that's very exciting because what I can say, uh, quite matter of factly, at this point, all the new scans that have come out, we can almost plot some of the underground structures literally with the template. Um, it's because it's recording these celestial cycles, and this is like a big chronometer here that we're looking at. If I were to go into great detail on this, we can see this as basically as a clock. We would see degrees and all the different measurements that are involved here. But without getting into that, into all the details, I just want to show how we can go and take these numbers that are given to us from our model, our lambda, when we achieved and determined all the base units of measure for the whole measuring system and a layout for the whole Giza Plateau. We were able to achieve all these numbers. And one of the things that really is important here, we'll get a little bit into here at Hawara, but to take this further, the calendars will be coming into a major part of this, because what they have shown and what we've actually discovered in the template, there are several new discoveries that I've actually made. It's a recovered discovery. It's not something I made, but it's something mathematics that I found related in the template that gives us a very precise reconciling of multiple calendars, and it also breaks down the great year in terms of the galactic great years cycles, the galactic alignments. It also incorporates the precession of the equinoxes. That's the wobbling or movement of the pole as it goes around every 25,000 years roughly. But we've got all those numbers precisely determined by the template. The template gives us those numbers to look back to see when certain alignments occurred between multiple star systems, and they would be Leo and the star Regulus, and that would be in the Sphinx down here, related to the Sphinx. We'll show how we'll put another layer on this template, and we'll show you how the celestial aspect gets there. But we have the other aspect here again being Orion, and how the three belt stars will line up to that.
Yeah, just an observation, being able to stare at it here for a few minutes as you're introducing there. If you've got your center point where that yellow pin is, right, then it looks like the radius to the northeast corner of the Great Pyramid, the northeast corner of Menkaure, and then to the head, or which part of the Sphinx is all the same distance?
It's very close, and it actually ties in. And these lines, by the way, it's just they're much more refined and exact in the model. I do have a 3D model built in SketchUp with all the pyramids and Sphinx all scaled and created using this model. But it's close, and there are definite references to these corners. But
okay, so it's, excuse me. Well, I see it when you zoomed in there. It's going through that's the Sphinx temple right in front of it to the east, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. Yeah, we were fortunate enough to be able to get in there when I was there. Apparently, nobody had been in like 50 years, so that was a very special occasion. So it goes. I see it. It's going right through the center of that. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me.
Well,
Proceed.
no,
Thanks.
that's great. It all ties together too, and you'll see, you know, once it takes a little bit to get your head around this, because I understand it's a lot of math and a lot of geometry and all that. But once you realize just the basics of what they were doing and the message they were trying to bring forward here, uh, is really profound, and it's almost so basic. It's no wonder it's been missed, um, because to a certain degree, it is really basic logic, and even all the equations that I've used to determine this whole template is nothing more than you know uh, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. That's really about it. There's no more higher degree that's needed to understand what's here. Now you can take it further, and of course, mathematics you can build, and we did a lot right from the lambda. We were able to determine the speed of light, and not only determine the speed of light, but we could determine the speed of light at a specific altitude and that altitude is like 32 to 33,000 feet, right where jetliners fly. So the information involved in the template here is that accurate.
That
Um,
sounds like a whole episode in itself right there.
it is. It is. It really is. There's a matter of fact, I've got a list of things that have come out of the template recovered that I've recovered that are actually scientifically new, valid ideas that overturn a lot of not necessarily. It does a lot of the dating of a lot of things are going to change. Not necessarily the measurement system. Actually, I've completely put this thing together, and there's absolutely no disagreement with what is empirically known data. All this survey data has been checked, and as I've mentioned to you, Brad, I've spent well over 160 hours on using Grok, comparing and getting all the data for all the survey data and all the cyclical astronomical data that I've gone through, and spent a lot of time all checking all this, and it's all right in with what is agreed with the empirical data. And actually, too, we've done with all the data that we went through over 90. Actually, I think it was like 90 to 95% empirical evidence is what I put forth in this template, and that's just based on measurements that can all be checked and confirmed. Uh, all the survey data, we used multiple surveys to double check and look at very specific things. I thought, I wanted to be very rigorous in my checking of all this stuff. So you can be confident that I've done that, and we'll get into some of the details there. But yeah, we'll do a class or a little podcast or something, go over the new scientific data that has come out of this. From this point here, what I want to talk about is when we were in our doing our classwork, we were using our lambda model, our 8-9 lambda. When we first started all our work, it was on this 8-9 lambda system here. And we can see here too, let me just kind of turn that down so we can kind of see through the whole thing there. So this is how we started out with the lambda, and we got all the qubits and all the measurements, and then in each class we actually built or came up with the exact dimensions for each pyramid, and it was all done very precisely. If you can notice here, the center pyramid, Khafra, is 1 unit of our 8-9 square here. So notice the outside square is 9 by 9 in the white, and then the inner square here is 8 by 8. That's where we put the lambda sequence on, and we add all our numbers. And one of the main focuses on that lambda, when we were talking about the celestial measures, was this square right here where the Sphinx is located, and the spiral is going into this Fibonacci spiral. That square is the 44th square if you count from the top left down. That's the 44th square. Now,
so 8 by 8 square would be 64 total, right? So if you're counting like you're reading, is the 44th.
Correct.
Just to help clarify. Yeah, just let me take a moment just to say the lambda that it's talking about is covered in some other videos that we've done, and there's quite a few more that need to be edited down, but basically it's something brought forth, or like Ed, recovered by Plato perhaps, and it's a doubling and tripling, or a squaring and cubing system of multiplication. So we'll get into that on a different video. lambda is something that's used as a symbol in many of the different sciences, right? But for this case, you're referring to this particular grid of doubling and tripling. Just
Yeah,
a quickie on that.
yeah, that's correct. This square right here, yeah, we'll be focusing on that square, and also just want to point out too, the and some of the other videos. I think actually in the land the video, I talk about the eye of Horus and the all-seeing eye that has a fractional value of 63/64. And if you interpret uh, that 63/64 as a 64 being the 8 by 8 square, and then that one missing 64th that's tied into the mythology of that, um, we would be, the thing that they would be trying to point out to you, hey, look at this one particular square. You know, they're pointing out one square. So to me, that was how I understood the recovery method that they were trying to give us is this, you're looking for a certain square. And when you look into the square, when you get the math involved here, the center of that square, the value would be 2592 or 2592, which if you add a zero on the end is the great year. So you can see where the numbers actually match the um, area here, and the great year. Another thing too, if you look at this one line here that comes down, this black line here that actually cuts through the back of the Sphinx is 259.2 degrees in its, if you were to start to zero over here on our north, and if you go counterclockwise and go around 259.2 degrees, that would bring you right over the Sphinx. So what they were doing, and I'm probably getting a little deeper into it here than I had
Yeah,
planned.
into the weeds there, but really that's an amazing point to identify that
Yeah,
that's the angle wrapping around from north that the Sphinx is matching and linking it to the great year.
right,
That's that
right.
okay, that's something to grasp onto and say, okay, wait, what else is going on here?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
that's some another level of knowledge
No doubt.
included in the engineering of this site, and that's just one little tidbit. But yeah, that's an amazing
Yeah,
point to be clear on right there.
right. So you can see, I mean, immediately when I first did this and did that measurement, then realized that the Sphinx was at that degree. It was just like, man, yeah, it was, to me, I knew I was on the right track, and surely has been the case here. But yeah, that's pretty amazing, and it's in of itself. And we could get
All
into
right,
a
so one more question.
sure.
Excuse me there again, Ed. So you said the grid system, those squares, are the exact size of the pyramid of Khafre there, the red one in the middle, right?
Correct,
So when
correct.
you were zoomed into the Sphinx there, block 44, it's also the same size as Khafre. So do you probably recall right off what those side lengths are then?
Yes, it's 706.172 feet in length.
Yes, you do.
Yeah,
Okay. 706 and a fraction. Got
that's
it.
an easy one. I remember that
All
one.
right.
So yeah, and that actually is in feet, and now the measurements in royal cubits are 411.
Right. There we go. There we go. Okay. That's
Right,
what I was
and now
remembering.
400.
411. Yes.
Right now 411. You know, I guess you could see that as 4 times 11, right?
Yeah, right. Yep. I would just,
And you got 44 there. So there's
uh,
another, like, this is like what's called over determining. So when they're encoding things, they want to give you a number, but then they also want to over determine it and say, well, here's additional proof and here's additional proof. So they're different layers. Like a combination lock wouldn't just turn to one number. You would turn to one, and then you'd have another one, and fine tune it, and bang, you got your perfect spot. If you're marking out a treasure, it'd be the same kind of deal. You'd over determine things. So whenever we look for anything, one measurement don't mean anything to me. It's got to have at least 2 points minimum to really, for me to apply it to this. So we can even look at each line as a data point. But there's even two data points here. We got the angle and we got the length and minimum, right? That's the 2 points of data we can get from one line. So, as we look at these, all these lines that I have drawn in here are very precise lines. I don't have these color coded in here, but this next line, this green line here, that is 7/13 of the circle. If I was to start at the top here and I'd count, if I had that circle divided by 13 and we were going clockwise around it, 7/13 is that radial. And then also, if I was, when I'm dividing concentrically, if I were to divide this circle would be 7/13. This larger, darker circle here is 7/13 of the circle if it's concentric. But now what I want to do,
All right. Yeah.
so here
Yeah,
is,
I'm glad we took some extra time to get some more of the details and see some more of the layers of the
yeah.
template building up on what we're gonna keep developing here. So yeah, let's how do we use it then to measure and to get over to Hawara, which is, well, over by the Fayum, but yeah, I'll let you go ahead.
Well, the next step, what we'll do, I showed you here. Now we started off with our 8x8 and our 9x9 there, and then we developed it, and ended up making this model here, dividing it up into circle and the spiral and all that. Now the next level of all this, now by this point in our development of this model, I've already constructed the three pyramids and the Sphinx. So it's all really a 3D model that was all obtained from this information here. Now, the next step is going to be to put on the celestial aspect. And there's two parts of that. One celestial aspect is the Sphinx and Leo, the constellation of Leo, and in particular, the star Regulus. So I'm going to apply now. This is a zodiac view, or it's an ecliptic, an axial view of the ecliptic is what it's actually called. And we're looking at the zodiac that you know in your astrology and the typical constellations. There's 12 that are the regular constellations, and then there's a 13th. But if we want to look at that, let's just take a look at it here. And I want you to,
And this is in a readily available program. The name of it is
this is
Stellarium.
Right.
Right? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is something that anybody can go get and look at this and get that axial view you're talking about, and you know, travel along with you and learn at the same time and verify all these things.
Yeah, that's one thing I encourage as we get further into doing this. We're just starting to work with this whole Google Earth and stuff in our videos here, but
All right, so yeah, if people, you're still with us, then get Stellarium.
and you can follow me right along with this. And really, I encourage that more than anything. If you can do that, we've got a lot more yet to come. We haven't edited. We got a ton of stuff. We just got to get edited. But a lot of that, you'll be able to easily follow along with what we're doing here step by step, and you can see and kind of prove it for yourself. And don't believe me, you can just literally check it yourself. So this image that I'm looking at here is from one of the critical things here is, when do we look at the sky and from what point? So I had determined that the view that we were going to be viewing the sky from would be the Sphinx viewing the eastern horizon, and the when would be the the biggest alignment that has occurred in the last, you know, many thousands of years, and that's the galactic alignment that just occurred in 2012. So I had determined that that was like the big, if you were going to make a chronometer so that you could measure all these celestial motions and have these different cycles kind of all line up at one point, you would pick the the galactic alignment as your as a major marker in your chronometer, your clock, where you would start from. So again, that date I determined by actually the angle of one of the causeways, but without getting too deep into that right now, I just want to go over and show how these constellations uh, are lined up here. And I want you to look at the the way the asterisms are conforming to the geometry. So understand that I made this geometry completely without any of this understanding of the zodiac. This was all done before, you know, the geometry came before the asterisms in my research, and which actually we find out is the case, that they're using and creating these asterisms to fit within this model of a template. And because it tells a story, it tells the whole story of these cycles and the different motions that occur, and it gets right down into it. It gets to you know, this knowledge was left and given to us so that it survives these cataclysmic events that are mapped out within these motions.
Well, okay, yeah, that's a whole nother level it gets into
Right.
once you have described the calendars and yeah, this actual long term cycle. So yeah, and the they right is the engineers
Correct.
of this side of this whole system. You know, who knows how far that goes. Uh, but yeah, we can't necessarily define who they are. But you know, I guess Thoth, Toth, Tahot, all the different pronunciations. I guess some people would point at that
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, advanced being or a group of, you know, whoever he worked with. But yeah, this is just a genius beyond genius level of engineering. So yeah, I know people are going to wonder, well, who are they? But yeah, that's just kind of an ongoing, really big question as you stick with this and see how deep and it's complicated, but there's simplicity to it at the same time, right? And that's the things that are accurate. You know, can be both.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll let you roll on here, but yeah, it is a stunning, beyond imagination kind of level of engineering involved here.
It really is, and we're finding that out now too with these recent scans. I mean, we were beyond blown away just looking at what was on the surface, right? And now with these recent scans, you're talking about huge structures underneath. I mean, come on. Yeah. It's obvious that whoever they were had great understanding of very high technology and engineering. I mean, just full stop. You know, there's not an argument about that anymore. So, Rob,
And the size of the planet.
yes,
Yeah, super high detail.
precise, and we can prove that too. Now we've been working on this. I've been working on this. You and I have been working on this a long time, and now I had done my homework to the best of my ability, and now presenting it with running it all through AI and Grok or whatever, and really just not doing anything on a theory idea, but just going and looking and comparing empirical data, survey data, all that. That was all double checked and reconfirmed. And even this celestial model, I've gone over all this, and it's really astounding. And what we're gonna find out here is that there's literally a story in these asterisms here. And even if you break the word asterism down, aster means star, and isms can kind of mean like a story or a teaching of this. So asterism is really star stories, right? And that's exactly what we see in the mythology. Even in this very image here, again, this is December 21st, 2012 at 000 hours. Uh, and the whole 00 hours is a whole other interesting factor into this. But if you duplicate what I'm telling you here on this, and some of my other videos too, you can see a very detailed, precise coordinates to look at and all that. That's all in there. But for tonight, we're just not going to get into that deep into details. But anyhow, again, the if we look as we go around in the constellations, here is Virgo, the Virgin. We got Spica, and that's a star we're going to be looking at. And look where Spica is on our measurement here. This is a Fibonacci. The top part here would be 21 squares, and the bottom part would be 13 squares in length. So it's a Fibonacci division right there. You can see where the spiral comes in. But Spica is right there on it. And again, this is our ecliptic. The green line is our ecliptic, and that's 7/13 of our circle. And as we look here, and we want to note here too, even planets are involved here. So here we have Saturn, and here this is Libra, which is a scale, right? It's one of the only constellation asterisms that is like a mechanical uh, thing. It's like a scale, not an animal or a caricature. It's a scale, and it's really, it, I mean, to me, there's no question about it. But it's there's not any mistake that it's right on the center. It falls right on the center line. There's two degrees that come off of the Libra that go to the Orion Nebula, and up here it goes to uh, right there on Cygnus, because there's a balance. There's a balance going on here of influence from the Pleiades, actually, that affects our motions. And we get into all of that in the calendars, and we're going to be releasing some of that pretty soon here too. We got a couple of really good videos we did quite a while ago, Brad, on the calendars, and how we broke down the basically a stop video or stop motion video of the sky going back 50,000 years, and all the different alignments and how each one aligns to a certain calendar, and how all that fits together. Getting out over our skis here a little bit again, but there's a lot to this, and it's difficult to try to explain all this, but just try to get into your mind that there was a blueprint left here at Giza. They left a blueprint that gave us instructions how to measure the earth precisely and the heavens precisely, and the science of how to move and manipulate stone, cut stone, and all that. It's all there. It's all encoded in that lambda. But
No, just the way that this is lining up here, each time I look at it with you, it penetrates a little more. But it's really, again, quite ingenious, and then really astute or gifted or whatever it's taken you and your experience through work and music to see it and place it in this right orientation and everything for that. You said ecliptic green line to match, right? You can see the other layer with the pyramids on there.
right.
Yeah, this really Yeah, we're just scratching the surface here, so I don't
Yeah.
want to interrupt and keep you from moving forward. But yeah, this is
Oh no,
it
it's
makes
good.
more and more sense to me all the time.
Good.
Fortunately, finally.
Well, I appreciate your input too, because that helps. You're asking the questions that others will ask as well. And you can help. I've been looking at this 30 years, and to me, is what seems simple is not readily, you know, apparent to others. So yeah, help
Yep,
me out there.
that's for
That's
sure.
yeah. So, just getting back to the whole asterisms, there's a great Greek mythology that has to do with the scorpion and Ophiuchus, which is our 13th uh, constellation in the zodiac, the one that they oftentimes forget. Well, that's actually on the horizon. When we look from Giza, we would see the sun coming up in the morning, and uh, Ophiuchus being right, literally right there by the sun on the horizon. But the mythology goes that Gaia was afraid that Orion, this aggressive hunter Orion, was going to destroy the animals and humans on Earth. So Gaia had asked the scorpion, which is over here, to sting Orion, which is over here, opposite 180 degrees across our circle here. Um, so the scorpion allegedly stings Orion, and there's a couple different variations, but one of them was where uh, the Orion, or he stings Orion, and Gaia then feels bad that she's uh, hurt Orion or whatever, to ask Ophiuchus, the serpent healer, to heal Orion that he may continue his hunt. So what's interesting here is this very alignment has all the key players in that mythology. So, we could start, just have that as a concept there and realize that this mythology all ties in with these asterisms and the star stories. So we're going to look at Venus right away here. As soon as I get done going over the zodiac here, we'll look at Venus and how that is going to relate to our getting to Hawara. There's Mercury. Here's the sun. And again, the sun is housed literally right in Sagittarius. If you can see, it's almost like cut within this asterism here. And right there is our sun. So it's all very, very planned and specific. We look up here, here's our uh, constellation of Aquarius, right? We're going into Aquarius. Well, I want you to note here too the angle of the body of Aquarius here and the angles that go through it. None of these are random or haphazard. They all are very precise and marking out things. Look at here where part of the Aquarius asterism is pointing out this Fibonacci division here. This would be 21 units and this would be 13. So that's a Fibonacci break there, a division. And as we come around here further, one of the main players in the whole understanding of the calendars and the cycles are uh, the this Pisces, the constellation of Pisces and the asterism here. If you translate every time the word fish is used, like we talk about the bladder of a fish in the sacred geometry, and we're talking about the Vesica Pisces, right? Um, that this is Pisces, right? And it's related to fish. So a fisherman, I kind of put my thoughts into it, and I said, well, a fisherman is an angler, right? You got the line and the pole and the angle, and he's an angler. So if you just transform the word every time you use fish in a lot of the celestial uh, aspects, and just take it as an meaning angles, in this case in particular, the two fish here are two angles. anyhow, Pisces is a very major player in this whole deal. And kind of continue around here. This is the Ram, Aries ramification, or the beginning of a new, you know, uh, the ramify, and that would be the start of the zodiac uh, constellations, and that is the proper starting point. Here we have next Taurus, and the Pleiades is right here, which would be the shoulder of the bull, right near. This is our Great Pyramid here in blue. But also, here's Jupiter. We can see that's going to come into play here as well. And this star right here, I want to point out, is at Alnath, I believe. Elnath, I believe, is
That's the
the
one.
name. Right?
Beta Tauri, yeah, Elnath.
Alnath, yes. And very interesting in that in all the constellations, which the original there were 48 original constellations, right? I just want to point that out, 48. But anyhow, this star is the only star in all the constellations that they made to have shared two constellations, that being Taurus here and Auriga here. And the interesting point about that, the position of this star is very close to what they call the anti-center of the galaxy. Over here in our sunrise that morning, that was the center of the galaxy over here. So this would be the center of the galaxy, and 180 degrees across back when we were looking would be the anti-center of the galaxy, which would be right close to this area right here. That's, I think, the nearest brightest star to the anti-center. So that's really important, and that all again comes into play. Here are the twins, Gemini, and that's again when we talk about twins, you're going to see the two different cycles that we're talking about, and it, again in further classes, I get so excited I want to show everybody all the stuff right away, but I can't. So, but note that the twins, we just talked about two different cycles, and the twins come into this. One has got its foot on the ecliptic here, right? Got it wrapped around the ecliptic, and they're holding hands here. It's all tied to the spiral here that ties back to Orion's Nebula from over here. It's beautifully done. My problem is when I get talking about this, I get so excited. I want to go off on tangents and tell you the whole story, and knowing that I don't have enough time, I got to move on. So, all right. So
yeah, there's a lot of info packed in right there, and yeah, again, that's another podcast or more. Just making that round.
So now we've gone plenty into that, with the exception of, I just want to cover that Orion is right here in that same stellarium view. We can capture that, and it's called a fisheye view, or a bubble eye, or fisheye view, I believe. So when we zoom out, we'll be able to see Orion and all that in the same view on stellarium. Also down here is, this is Sirius. Now, of course, I've made that dot a little bigger just to bring out the highlight it, but we're going to be looking at Sirius and Orion. Here's Regulus and the Pleiades, some of the major players there. But now, what I want to do here now is I want to show you how the template is directly related to other places on the plateau.
All right. Well, let me throw in a question.
Sure.
As far as things that are related. So you made a leap here from the ground at Giza, right, and then to this zodiacal wheel up in the sky. So go back and relate why you decided that needed to be superimposed on what you already had, the grid and the circles on the ground?
Well, I had
Without doing 45 minutes on that, because
yeah.
I know that can go deep. But yeah, just relate that, because I think maybe you made a quick jump that people would want to understand. Why'd we get into the constellation so quickly? I know we talked about Leo and the Sphinx and it being on the line there, but yeah, can you define that a little more, please?
Well, I mean, I realized, a long time ago, with Robert Bouval's work, that there was definitely something to the Orion correlation theory, and I was well aware of John West's work with the Sphinx, and really I was understood very early that Leo and the Sphinx were linked. And if you're going to mark one on the ground, you would want to mark one in the sky, and you'd want to mark them together. So when I had kind of came to this conclusion to look at the zodiac constellations on here, it was logical for me because I was seeing circles and I was drawing a lot of circles out of here, and I realized, well, if I was spinning a circle on that point there, it ended up being right there with the spiral. And when I got this image of the zodiac, I applied it, and I thought logically, I said, well, if I line up Leo with the Sphinx, I should be, in the neighborhood. And to my astonishment, when I did that at exactly 9 degrees with Regulus, the star Regulus here, this would be the star Regulus. I realized, oh my God, I saw how the asterism fit in the spiral, and I saw how all the other constellations played out like Libra here, and it was like, oh my God, I found it, But it was just logical. You put the Leo in the constellation along with the Sphinx, and you index them because that would be aligning the clock. So it's just a logical, intuitive step that I took. I mean, this whole reconstruction was intuitive. I had to just go in there, and once I found that the correct dimension of that first square being one of the 81 squares in our 9 by 9, then things started coming together. But yeah, it was
once you got that Regulus intuitively, that's going to go right there on my 7/13 circle that's already there, and it's in the Sphinx temple, like we looked at before. We pointed out it's on that, right? And then it was just kind of a snap to grid kind of thing. It just, you got the right ratio, and it was like boom, oh man, right?
Yes.
Okay,
right. And that is key. And then 7/13, I also realized that the circle, because I realized that the causeway for the Sphinx causeway is on a 7/13 angle, and so I knew that was right. And then as soon as I put that on here, everything just clicked. I mean, look over here, where Orion is touching here, and this is like we've only got like nothing shown here right now, but when you start getting the measurements all in here, you can see where every point is. There's just no denying that this was definitely done together and it's part of a whole system. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that we're going to get to Hawara from a pretty interesting point here, right from the center. So this center point right here, we are going to go on we're going to draw a line from the center point. We're going to go right through Venus. And actually, if you trace it back, it starts at Jupiter. So a line created from Jupiter. Let's see, I'll turn on a couple here. So right here now, we draw this line that goes through Venus. That's a 16-point 16.24 degree angle. Yeah, 16.24 degree angle. But it goes back, it actually connects back, and there's a extension that I just extended from here back to Jupiter. It's on that same exact angle. But what I want to point out with is that length, and this is scaled to the right to the Giza template. So from that point at Jupiter to the center is 1,733 feet in length. Now the number 1733 is going to come into a major part of this, and I'll just give it to you right now to show you an interesting point of what I mean. So I'm drawing a line, and it's actually at 120 degrees around that circle. If I were to draw a line from there and catch the bottom of, I don't have it all precise here, but I can get it so it's right there. It'll be 1733, and 17.33 degrees is, there it is. Okay, pretty close right there. So 1733 is actually two of the elevations. There's a 33-foot elevation in between the Khafre and the Khufu pyramid, and there's 17 feet of elevation height in the elevation above sea level between the center point and the pyramid of Menkaure. So 1733 is encoded literally into the elevations of the pyramids. And then this angle right here is 17.33 degrees. And also, it makes up the bottom of the Great Dipper, and also intersects with the Arcturus, a star that we'll be talking about too. But I just wanted to point out 17.33 degrees. That's 1,733 feet here. So that's where we get that from. So there's a lot to this. But so anyhow, this line, we're going to follow this line now, and we'll go to here, and we'll take a look. So what we're going to do is, not only are we going to draw that line, and that line is going to be 81 kilometers. This first line, the 81 has got to do with, I told you we had 9 degrees for where we located Regulus, but at the point of the head of the Sphinx is actually at 9.9 degrees. So in my eyes, as I was trying to understand all this, I was realizing, and we did come to the determination that 81 is a major number to adjust one of these cycles in the long-term cycle. So the number 81 is very pertinent here to that. But now, to give it another level, because I talked about overdetermination or more than one measurement to prove, okay, if I gave you one measurement here and said it was 81 kilometers long, well, big deal, you got one measurement. What does that mean? Well, what it means here, it means we started from Jupiter, went directly through the center of our template, which is a precise coordinate, through Venus and straight out to Hawara. That's one line. Now I'm going to put another one in here that is going to be a second, an overdetermination or an additional line that we can, whoops, I don't add that one in there. Let me see here. It is, get the right one here. It's this line. Now this line here, we're going to go from this point. Now this point if you notice this number right here, 299 point. Oh, well, actually, I got the decimal in the wrong place. Sorry about that. I got it. The decimal point should be 29.9972 degrees north. But what it shows here, and this is why I made that mistake here. If you were to put a comma there and make this 299,972, that is the speed of light in kilometers per second. Now, a lot of people have pointed this out. It's at the very near the center line of the Great Pyramid. It's very close, and it's actually a predetermined offset to be precise. But that is the speed of light in a metric system in that number right there. So
that's latitude. That's the same latitude as your center point then.
That's correct. It's the same. So, and there's actually a third one, another third point that we're going to put from the same place, and that one is going to be. It's kind of hard to see there. See the yellow line that went on top of that. That one is going to be 16.09 degrees at 44 nautical miles. Now, again, we're getting into nautical miles as opposed to miles. But as you understand this whole template model, they are putting in multiple types of measurements within there. And that's, again, the over determining and using multiple numbers to confer or to confirm. We got this is 81 kilometers here. This is nautical miles. So they're using multiple things here to kind of as a proof or another determination.
So that's saying all of our measurement systems then are extremely, extremely old.
Yes, and that's one thing. Just hit a real quick point here. The model that I've recovered from Giza breaks down all the qubits in precise calculated method, and that these numbers, all these different measure, are all part of that system, and they all come from one. And just to show you that it's ancient, and this is the only place that really disagrees with the mainstream idea here. All the numbers are correct, all the qubits and all that works, all the miles, nautical miles, all of it fits perfectly, with the exception of when it was introduced. And a lot of the skepticism about the template was talking about the use of the imperial inch, or the imperial measuring system, the inches and foot being encoded. And it's very easy to prove that the Greeks, like the Greek foot, came after the imperial, because the imperial is encoded at Giza. Is a simple fact that if you take the royal cubit divided by the root cubit, you get the royal or the Greek foot precisely into like eight decimal points or so precision. So that
sounds like we got a whole series of instructionals then on this considered metrology, right?
Right.
Metrology.
Right.
All right. Yeah.
Yes. They just have to reconsider. It all fits in beautiful, with the exception of the timeline. No, the English imperial system did not come after the Greeks. It came much before, and all this was encoded at Giza. And the root measure of all systems comes directly from the measure of 12 divided by 7, or you could go 144 by 7. That gives you the feet and inches. Either way you could go there. But all the measure that we've proven now, and I've run this through Grok, and of course John Neal, all his work shows that there's a beautiful system of measure that's all relates back to one, and then one measure is then broken up using a series of fractional divisions or multiplications that give different uh, forms of measure and different local measure systems too. They would take a local measure system and just use a fraction, but it would be based off the that what we found in the lambda, which is really a simple, that all comes right out of the lambda. So yeah, all these measurements are all they worked them into these as they were plotting these different places to mark. They would use these numbers and dimensions and these years that are calculated in the cycles to find these and locate and connect, show a connection to these places. Because just like the Templars and they're obsessed with the numbers and geometry and where things are. Well, so we're this whole that's what the template is. It's an understanding of all measured, earthly and celestial, and macroscopic and microscopic and all the sciences. It's all together, and they left it here for humanity to recover and to bring back and hopefully utilize at a time when we really desperately need it, and with the hopes that we've matured enough to be moral in our compass, that we don't destroy ourselves once we figure this ancient story out of where there were higher civilizations prior to us that have fallen, and we need to understand why they've fallen and build on that. And that's what I hope a lot of this understanding is going to bring forth, and that's an understanding of you know this is high science encoded here. But if we don't have the morals, we're toast. It's really that simple. We'll destroy ourselves without the moral compass. So it's my hope that a lot of this knowledge that's coming out now, I firmly believe and realize that this knowledge is all being planned from thousands of years ago to be gradually left out at certain intervals along the way, and you know working its way up to this cycle of the reset of the clocks. And again, that's a reset. It's not the end of one thing, it's the beginning of another. So it's the both things here. So we can't look at it with total uh you know uh fear of a cycle ending. We also need to look at it as a new beginning. So I want to kind of put that in there too. So
All right. Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, it's great that we're getting some of the many perspectives and overview of this included in this review once we get to Hawara here. So just to review there, you were saying all those measurements though start with 144 divided by 7
correct. If you want to,
or 12 divided by 7?
yes. If you go
Okay.
12 divided by 7 gives you let's see, that gives you the root.
Well, we don't have to get too far into that, but that's just kind of okay. We'll get back to that, but you're saying that's like the starting point. 144 divided by 7.
That's it. Yeah, and we found
Yeah.
that right in the
Okay.
lambda. That's such a beautiful equation. That is the start to the measuring system. End of story. That is, and it's calculated and works out to you know it's unbelievable. It really is, and it's
All right. Look forward to more on that.
yeah, it's in the video in our lambda that you can learn that whole thing in the cosmic soul, Plato's lambda and the cosmic soul, that covers the whole measuring system. So let's now we've got three lines that we've established. One being 81 kilometers in length, and the other two that are both 44 nautical miles. The one in red again goes through begins here in Jupiter, goes through the center and goes through Venus. So let me just show you this too. I want to give you one more view here because I want to show you why and where we got a couple of the numbers. So just go back up to our view here, and I want to show you this. Now, what we're looking at here, you would want one of these, and that would be the yellow line going from the Great Pyramid where our speed of light is. We're going to go on a 16.09 angle, and that's where I got that from here. And that is if we go 16 hours and 9 minutes after 0 hours in our calendar. Like I said, our view here was on December 21st, 2012, at 0 hours. Now, this view is just a stellarium screenshot showing here's Regulus, and Regulus is at like 21 degrees here. Again, there's our number 21. We can divide 432 by 21 and come up with our root cubit as well. It's the same equation as 144 divided by 7. So the 21 is important here too. So just look where, we're literally tail right on the horizon, and a major number here in our altitude here in our azimuthal degrees.
So each green block being 10 by 10, so you said it's 21. So right, it's just above the second green block.
Yeah, correct. So it's encoding 21, and then this 16 and 9 minutes. Now, actually, I don't have it here, but if I went up, well, I won't get into it. There's too much to it, but plain and simple, the angle that I just I'm using because of this number and how it relates to the Regulus and the Sphinx in our 44th square. So they all relate, right? The 44th square is where Regulus is and the Sphinx. And what time we see that is 16 hours, 9 minutes. So if we're going to use those numbers from this point here, turn that off. And let's see, come on, there you go. Now I'm going to go back to here. So anyhow, we'll just get to Hawara right now. We'll go to Hawara and I'll show you how accurate that this is. So there's 3 separate lines there, and each are very specifically placed. Again, from one of them is 16 degrees, exactly 16 degrees. One is 16.09 and one is 16.24. All of them relative to. Hop, skip, and jump over to Hawara. So this is approximately 81 kilometers. And this red line here is 81 kilometers. And I could put on there, just put the terrain on there. It shows a little bit. So there, right now, we're looking directly, we landed right at the northern face of the pyramid of Amenemhat. I always have trouble pronouncing that name. I shouldn't, but I do. So here we are at where that arrived. Now here is where our second line at 16.09 degrees at 44 nautical miles ended. And here was 44 nautical miles at 16 degrees. So all 3 of those angles landed us right in Hawara. So let's look around in Hawara a little bit. So it's not exactly where I went. Well, yeah, that'll work. Yeah, so now we're looking basically where the north is to our right now. We're looking at it as we would see it in the template to our north. I'll kind of zoom out there a little bit so you can see. So here we are at Hawara, and we can see the canal that was dug and cut in here in 1820, right around there is when they cut this canal in. But that has given it a problem now with water at the site. So that was a work that was addressed by William Brown, I believe, in around 2009 time period. He was actually hired to uh, as a civil engineer to look at the problem at Hawara here with the water infiltration within the labyrinth area here. So he spent a lot of time and was hired by the Egyptian authorities to look into this. So he proposed a way that they could alleviate some of the water issues that were going on here. And while he was doing that, he also found that there were layers underneath the mud brick pyramid that's here now. There's a larger base down deeper that is more of a stone pyramid. So what there's potentially looking at here is a mud brick pyramid that was built on top or recapped an earlier possible pyramid. Yeah, I guess that further exploration will determine that to be the case or not. That's interesting in itself. So we'll talk about the canals here in a minute. But what I want to show you here is this one here that showed it was overdetermined multiple times by the 16 hours and 9 minutes with the Leo and Regulus, and the 44 as far as where the Leo and the Sphinx was located in the template. So there's multiple layers of determination here, and there's been scans done, and I think the original scan that we're going to look at here was done around that time period. Around might have been a little later in 2010-ish, somewhere around there. But that scan was done, and it was actually classified. It was done with high tech scanning, uh, actually military grade scanning software and techniques. But it was showing something that they didn't want to show publicly, so it was classified for I think close to 10 years, as far as I understand it. But that has been released, and the people that are doing really some great work on that, I probably should be reading the work that's being done at Hawara is just pretty amazing, with several different scans all kind of coming together to work all this out. But I want to show that scan and show you where we landed here and what the scan tells us. Go up here. Now I'm going to just take this, and this is going to be just looking north is to the top of our page now, just because that's the way the scan was done and oriented. So I'll just give up that view. And here's the scan that was done. So again, some particular attention here. We landed right in the center of the north face of the pyramid, and on our 81 kilometers, and that was at our also aligned Jupiter, the center of our template, Venus, and ended up in the pyramid here. Our other two lines that came from, well, be almost the center line of the pyramid of Khufu, Great Pyramid, that where the speed of light latitude is, that comes right here. And what we're looking at right here is a metallic object that was discovered in this scan. And most likely, one of the reasons it was classified information. So at this point in time, they've detected this large metallic object that's 40 meters long. I mean, we could probably throw a measurement up there real quick just to see what we got. Well, let's see, go into meters here just because they gave it in meters, I think. Actually, yeah, this was a 64 meters there. It was I'm showing here, but there was some talk about 64 number in there too. And again, 64 is the number of our square, right? We already talked about 64, and right there it is measured out in that. I mean, there's only so many times that coincidences aren't coincidences anymore, So that just being another one there. But so I just want to, show that this template is pointing out this labyrinth. And
So
I've done,
that's like, sorry, excuse me again. That's like 120 plus feet,
yeah,
right? No, 64 meters. So more than that, 200 feet almost.
right,
So
right.
I mean, that's longer than a train car. That's longer than the fuselage of a big plane, even.
It's there's a big thing under there. Yeah, it's a big metallic object. Now, let's not go too far into what I think
Yeah,
they stated it was 40 some meters. I could be wrong in that, but this marking here I know is where they're saying the metallic object is. Whatever it is, it's big.
that's a
And
big
all
thing.
of this, yeah, all of this is big under there. There's over 3,000 rooms according to Herodotus under here that made the pyramids look, I shouldn't say insignificant, but they rivaled and bested the pyramids according to some of the early historians. So yeah, it's pretty serious. Um, and just so you guys know too, I've done a lot more uh, work that I'm not even showing here. But just for instance, I want to point out um, there's a center here that I actually determined coming off that canal. And if you look here, what I'm getting at here, see this blue, what looks like to be some part of this structure underground here. Um, is it's all kind of working out in the template model here. The point of it is, I think this gave us a determination of a center here. And then if you look, like you can see where that center is in line with the whole metallic object or whatever this is. But it's all, what I'm saying, it's all geometrically seeming to work with the template. Now, I've pulled up multiple numbers within here, many, probably 2 dozen measurements that I've already measured in here and calculated. That's beyond the scope of this presentation. But I just want to kind of declare and state, I think in no uncertain terms here, that the template and Hawara are directly connected, and that as we study and learn more about Hawara with these scans and stuff, I think it's imperative that the template gets uh, brought into this mix, uh, not only at Giza but at these other sites. Um, it really, I know this work isn't that well known out there. Some of you people might know me from years ago. I brought this out in public for the first time in 2008 with John Anthony West at a CPAC. Uh, so I've been doing this, a long time, and this might be new to some people, but this framework of this template has all been. I've double checked this. I've built this 3D model, and I've checked with all the surveying, uh, the empirical data that I can get using AI. I spent over 100 hours just probably on Giza alone, going through all that. Um, so what I have here is really important information that needs to be incorporated into the understanding of Hawara and Giza. Maybe next time, Brad, we can get together and we can talk about the scans at Giza. And we'll do that next, I think, and just show how that fits with this template.
Okay, sure. Yeah, no shortage of new information coming out that I think in a lot of modes you've already applied them to. I would like to hear something else. You said there's like 20 measurements that match. So, I mean,
Yeah,
can you give us an example of something else? Like you said the
sure.
metal, or at least that white mark there is 64 meters.
Right, right.
So, I mean, just for example, something else though, or a couple other things. There's
Sure.
a line or another circle. You didn't remember that one specifically. So yeah, just another couple examples would be good.
Yeah, I can do that. For one, I don't have it in this
'Cause,
presentation,
yeah,
but
it's it's not real exact, so I'm not sure. Yeah, show us what you're measuring to get your right numbers.
okay. So to start with, I want to say that I don't have it on here, but there is from William Brown's work and study. He has dimensions marked off, and I do have it, but not in this particular view.
Okay, I have seen that with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I do have it. It's got specific lengths that he determined to be the corners of the original pyramid when they were digging down to find the water issues. Right,
Right.
the numbers were coming up right at. There was multiple measurements on his plan that stated the number 343 feet and also 336 feet, which to me that's sirens going off because Menkara pyramid is 336 feet by 343 feet, a rectangular pyramid giving two different angles, each of the angles providing for the a root number of a of the cycles of the great year and a corrected number, which would be a 51.84 degree angle corrected to a 51.27 degree angle on the other. And that 51.27 degrees, when you leave the decimal point out, is 5,127 years, which brings you right to the beginning of the long count calendar of the Mayan calendar. But the Mayan calendar is part of the template calendar as well. There's no separation there. They're one and the same. They're both encoded. Uh, you know, Mayan calendar is encoded at Giza. But so the number 343 and 336 come up in the measurement of the pyramid alone. So
Okay.
we already have a beautiful tie there, right? So some of
And
the
that's
other,
exposed and visible and previously measured on the ground on site. So you got some pretty accurate numbers on those. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, what little has been exposed was done by William Brown when he was digging trenches to find some of the water levels, but he found corners of the pyramid and marked them on the plot. Those were the numbers where I was taken from. And by the way, those were the same exact numbers that we found when we went to Abu Rawash. We did the same exact thing from that the longitude on the Great Pyramid. We got to Abu Rawash from that same point with a very specific thing. And maybe if we got time, maybe we'll shoot back to Giza and just top it off with that and call it a night. Before we do that, I'll give you some more measurements here. One of the things that I want to point out in the grand scale of things right now is that, first of all, when you look at this, why would they dig a canal right into the middle of this labyrinth they were aware of this was there in 1820? Why did they do that? Was that deliberate? Did they deliberately uh, dig that canal in there? Were they trying to look for something in there, try to find something in there by digging this canal? Did they find anything? I don't know that they did. I'm not claiming they did either. But one of the things that's very curious that I anytime I visit a site like this, the first thing I do is I go in and measure angles. If I see a straight line, I measure that. How many degrees off? Which axis is that? Does that make any sense in our template as far as numbers? Is the length of that specific angle, does that adhere to our template model? And in this case, the canal stuck out to me like I got to measure that first off. And when I did, I realized it's 49 degrees. Well, 49 is the correction of uh, we just talked about the pyramid of Menkaure being um, uh, two different angles. So if you had the base angles of, or the base lengths of Menkaure pyramid uh, of 343 feet, that's actually, if you measure, it's 7 feet units, 340 feet would be 49 units, 7 feet long. So 49 is the one base length. Then the other base length is 336 feet. Now that would be, it would be 48 units of 7 feet. So the 48, 49 is the correction. And that's how we correct the great year number. If we take our number 25,920, which is the canonical great year, the even number of the great year. Well, to correct that, we divide that number by 48, and then we add that 148th onto our 25,920, and we get 26,460. So that number is how that's all corrected, and that using the 49/48 is the fraction that corrects that to give us the galactic's great year time length, precisely how that works out. So anyhow, 49 and 48 is big numbers that were going to be they're numbers that scream this model. So right there, it was 49 degrees, and let's see, I think I measured that in feet, and let's just give a line on there. I'll pull it and show. uh, I was measuring. So if you're a designer, architect, or civil engineer, and you're laying this thing out, when they did that, one of the points they would kind of start with is, whoops, a little hard for me to navigate here. But so what I did here was I measured, well, first I measured this, and I think that came out to, that might have been, forget what that was, but this, the point I really wanted to measure was from there to right here, and that's 2,646 feet, which is 26,460 in our years that we just talked about. And then if we went to 25,920, we're, let's see, right there. So, and that being right in the center of our atrium in our labyrinth, and directly straight, if you put a line from here to there, that was measuring out that 25,920, right? Let's see, I'm trying to get exact here. I'm struggling a little, but there you go. That's giving us the center of our circle here, off of that and off of that. And then to add even more onto that, if we take that angle over here and we look at this angle, I believe that was right there. You go.
911 feet or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there are.
That was somewhere else.
Yeah, no, that is it's 911 feet, right? I'm trying to get both of those numbers here. So there's 911 feet and 9 degrees. I think it's actually 9.11 degrees, but we could speculate and
Yeah.
dive a little deeper. So we got a double number right there in this. Again, if you're following and you've seen some of the other videos where we get into the ratios of 911 or 9 and 11, a sun cycle being 11 years in our cycle, so that it's all part of this. But these numbers, so 911 is a big part of this whole story, and I'll leave that
Yeah.
there at this point. But
Well, let's while you're still here, I know you talking about squeezing in a quick measure over to um, the north end there at Abu Rawash up on the
here,
top of the high point up there. Uh, yeah, just
so,
wanted to recognize, like you said, William Brown is part of a new group, and they've got a website.
yeah,
I
please,
was just looking at it, Archaeological Rescue Foundation. So
yeah,
it's archaeologicalrescue.org, and we'll put the link in the description. But yeah, he's doing that with Trevor Grassi and a couple other guys, and yeah, so we just want to make sure you let people know that they're the ones really
right,
spearheading this, and going to continue to work with the other guys, with the scan teams, and I think they've more or less said they've got a lot of new announcements coming soon
yeah,
on their work that's already been done here.
yeah, it's
So this
very
is this
exciting.
is a different angle of connecting it to, the bigger engineering work that is the pyramids in Egypt. Um, and Ed, Trevor, or friends, also with John Anthony West. You both live not too far away from him up there in New York, so you guys have a connection. Briefly way back, he's aware of you and your work and is supportive, and yeah, hopefully we'll be talking to him soon.
Yeah, yeah, Trevor, he's done some great work, man. He's really done the work on the ground there and really
Absolutely, on the ground,
done
underground, yeah,
fantastic
all
work.
over.
And
Yep,
all of
he's
these
committed. Yeah,
all of these people involved in this, William Brown, and all these other people who I'm failing to name names right now, but hats off to these people that have worked diligently to get this information out.
absolutely, long term dedication. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
and
knew they were onto something, and it's finally turning into something, and it's big. It's really big.
it is really big, and I'm not even trying to put myself there too, but what's really been exciting to me is that after 30 years of my work, the hardest thing, you couldn't really get permission to go and survey in Giza. You had to Everything had to be taken for granted as to what was given to us, the information. And so for years it was difficult for me to be able to prove my work, but with the advent of the newer satellite technology and AI that has rechecked. I mean, I literally rechecked all these numbers and coordinates, and so it's all verified now. So the technology now is developing on my end just at the right time that the technology is developing that we can look underneath. And the important thing we need to understand here is that this template model is mapping out these sites. Uh, You know, they're 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 all related in one way or another. Now, not exact, model of the template goes to each other site, but important key information that is contained in the template, the numbers and the understanding of the celestial motions and all that are all in these other sites. And we can do that too. We'll top this off with one more, just to show that Giza and Hawara isn't the only ones that are related. Many other sites, and you and I have gone over many of them, and we're
Oh yeah,
prepared to get some of that video out and show you how Dendara and Osirian, and many of the other temples and and pyramid structures not only in Egypt but around the world are all connected in the same exact manner that I just showed how we got to Hawara.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so let's if you
With
want
your what were they, over, not over corrections, but over
determinations.
determinations. Yeah, yeah.
Over
All right.
determine.
So if you've got one, can we do like, is there an animation that pulls away from here so people can see that are maybe following along on Google Earth, or at least have looked at the pyramids in Egypt? We're not far from the Nile here.
Yep. So this is just a
It's a big area to the west of the Nile,
yep,
right? That's green. It's a lowland. I guess was flooded at some point.
yeah,
Somebody mentioned a different route of the Nile at some ancient time. Yeah, just to get people some orientation of where it is there in relation. 81 kilometers away is 50-ish miles.
right. Yeah, so this is just looking back toward Giza. That's where we're going to head. But I'll go up and just give us a view from above Hawara a little bit, and I'll zoom out so you have an idea where we're coming from. Here's the Nile, and here's again north is to our right. Here's our Giza complex, and here's where we are in Hawara. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to go back and let's go back to Giza from where we started our line right there, and that is our speed of light number right there. So what I want to do now is to just show that there's another place to look at. That's not what I want to do, but we're going to go look at Abu Rawash. All right, so getting back to Giza here, where our points where we started. Now, if I go from that same point, head to Hawara, I mean to Abu Rawash. Now we're going to go on a 43.2-degree angle. So that would be if our north south was left to right here, this line, if we go from here up, it's 43.2 degrees. Like here would be our pivot, and here would be our line up.
All right, 432. People paying attention to that. You don't have to go far online to dig to see how many places within sacred geometry and music that's incredibly important number.
So that angle right there is 43.2 degrees. Now I just got to find my eraser.
Off of north south.
Yes.
Because yeah, again, you can look at the compass in the far upper right and see where north is.
So what happens when we go 43.2 degrees and we go 26,460 feet, we end up right at Abu Rawash at the pyramid of Djeddefre. Djeddefre was the brother of Khafra. And but this pyramid is just basically destroyed. There's really not a lot even left of that other than this big hole. Yeah, so yeah, again, you can tell us a little bit about Abu Rawash if you were there on your last trip. But yeah, it's like a destroyed pyramid.
What I'm connecting again, I think I said this the other day when we looked at it, that shape that's blacked out there is shadowed because that goes down deep. I don't know how far, 100 feet down into the ground.
Yeah,
that's the same kind of a hammer or double axe head type shape that shows up on that underground back there at Hawara.
Yes.
I thought the idea with the labyrinth was there's all kinds of tunnels, and you said 3,000 rooms or chambers or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of looks like there's that kind of shape back there.
Well, there definitely could be a connection there, no doubt. And again, these are the things as we get to study these more and realize they're more closely related and how they're related because they're encoding this specific knowledge. It could definitely help understand what these purposes for a lot of these things were. Um,
Right. That was one of the first places we went on the second trip I was lucky enough to make over there early in, yeah, right at 2 years ago, actually. Um, and yeah, it was one of my favorite places. Lots of times, we make the trips out west with Randall, and anytime we get to a mountaintop or a high viewpoint, that's like I always think my favorite thing, right? So this is elevated. You see, I've got a different background that's got the pyramids in the distance from that viewpoint on the front side of that, where your green line comes in there, um, standing on the side of that hilltop, looking around. Yeah, that was really spectacular to have that elevated view and see
yeah,
uh, the three pyramids at Giza, and then see whether it was the red pyramid or the step pyramid was the next one farther south. Yeah, it was quite a spot. And then to have that ability to access to go, I mean, it was there weren't stairs. It was kind of a dangerous trek
deep, yeah,
down in there, but the whole group went in. I went in first and then went up to the top side and got photos of the people down in there. But yeah, you just got the sense of, they were storing something
what?
super important in here potentially. This was like, we are keeping our baby safe, and it's going
Yeah,
down way down in the middle of this thing. Yeah, it was really a wild spot that I would love to get back to and spend more time at.
yeah. Well, we can actually in another video or two, we'll cover some of these sites at Giza or around Giza and Egypt in a lot more detail than we're doing here. This is just kind of a kind of breaking the ice with the scan folks and stuff. I want to introduce this to these guys and present this information that is going to be hand in hand with the scans and understanding what is it at Giza and what is at Hawara and what potentially is out here to look at. Um, you know, uh, we measured around here quite a bit, and this again, this pyramid was almost the same exact size as Hawara with the same numbers incorporated. And there's
Okay,
boat
right.
pits too, like even in Hawara too. I failed to mention there's some boat pits there too that tie things with Giza. And again, I really am convinced that this template will help understand what is going on with Giza and many of these other structures around the world, literally. And that's what you and I are going to work to try to get out to the public here. And I've got 30 years of this work accumulated, a lot of it even recorded that's not been edited yet, but we got a lot of material to present here that's going to open up things that people just won't even believe. I mean, I have a hard time accepting some of the reality of this too, because just it's incredible. Uh, so, and this year I think is a year that we're going to be learning so much that it's time that this 30 years of research that I have here get into the mix and have other people, look at it and understand it and utilize it and get more information than even I have out of it. But as we go through this, we're going to see that there are groups that know very well this template and how it applies, and that they've been the caretakers of this knowledge for hundreds or thousands of years, really, bringing this information forward, and it's all coming out now. And I think part of it is, or I think the better thing is to say, is it was planned really to be brought out at this time, at the end of this cycle. We start realizing the technology that was lost or hidden for the last several thousand years, probably for good reason. You don't want to give kids in the playpen matches, right?
Well,
Let
yeah,
them
the
know we never,
advancement of technologies,
right,
you know, beyond exponential these days. But yeah, we look at these measurements you're doing and the multi-decimal places that you can get down to on the coordinates and even just the measurements by foot and the angle degrees, all of it. 20 years ago, maybe the military was doing it, right? But now
right,
anybody can get on Google Earth Pro and
right,
find this stuff and measure this stuff, and you've been right on top of it. So it's, yeah, it couldn't have really happened any sooner.
right,
Peach
exactly.
Petrie and those guys and whoever built the canal, they had something to use, but they weren't able to do all this. So it's time for it to be brought forth, and a lot of things are pointing at it. It's gonna be some amazing stuff. Just this year, if not in the next few months.
Yeah, you got that right.
But you stressed it also, and we've gone back to this almost every discussion is the morals of the people.
Yes,
You get a new tool, and are you going to use it for good? Are you going to use it for some dastardly purpose? So we've got to be on top of the wave that says we
right.
are mature enough to have this knowledge.
Yes. And another thing I want to kind of bring out here too. There's a point where a lot of people prefer to stay on the sidelines and not say much or not get involved or uh, say, well, that's going on, but I just don't want to deal with it or whatever. The problem with that is if everybody takes on that attitude, uh, evil surely will win. That's just proof positive that that will happen. For good men, or for evil to succeed, good men need do nothing, right? So now is a time when good people need to be proactive and say, yes, you know, we want to be moral and move ahead and move humanity ahead with these technologies and understanding of our history. But we there's a whole other faction that would rather us not know any of that and are trying to hide that from us and trying to keep this technology and utilize it for not for the good of humanity, more self-indulgence and building a technocratic elite breakaway civilization that leaves us with nothing. So we can't let that happen, and that's what's been happening. There have been essentially two forces, I guess, and that would be a little bit more black and white. It's a little maybe too black and white, but there's essentially two sides struggling to maintain, preserve this knowledge, and to bring it out and release it at the proper time when it can be used to help us through the warning that they were giving us about these cyclical disasters. The information is here to rebuild a civilization. That's really the bottom line. Because after these events that occur, we can see they've happened, throughout history, but we don't know why they're happening. Are they random? Are they cyclical? The myths and stories talk about a cyclical nature to it, and now science is catching up with that and realizing, hey, yeah, there's cycles that are involved here, and I think this template is on the cutting edge of the understanding of these cycles. And
I'm going to agree with that, and we've definitely got some other angles to come at from that, and definitely my experience working and traveling with Randall, and you've been out with us multiple times, over the last decade, and there's a lot to be added to the story, and a lot of other researchers' work that is going to kind of be combined to
yes,
release this new version and this more accurate version of our ancient history. And people are hungry for that, but we need to wrap this up, but I want to say I give evil zero chance of winning.
me too.
I totally have faith that people will be inspired, the right people in the right positions will do the right things to pull this all off. And sometimes, just like brother Bruce Willis, right? It's the last freaking second just for
All
drama,
right.
because this is all a
Yeah.
big theater, right? We're spirits having a physical experience. So, why not make it a crazy, wild, play to have an amazing climax and finale, and start off on a new wonderful story for humanity. But yeah, we're in the the stages right here that it's you know wow moments all the time.
And to get into the whole idea there, of this is the whole idea of the American experiment here was, to be at a place and be developed and spiritually and morally. That was the idea of the founding fathers to build this country based on those principles, and those principles are, uh, just having a belief in a higher being and having freedom and liberty and the basic uh, right, God-given rights, if you want to call them that, of humanity. So, like George Washington and the war for independence there, that there was like, we were losing and losing to these to we are trying to separate ourselves from this evil empire, right? And it was the spirit and the spirit of Washington and the determination of those people to make that all happen is kind of where we are now. We're at that time again where, yeah, it looks like, the bad guys got an upper hand, but guess what? No, they haven't. We're gonna take control back of the truth, and that's really what it comes down to: is truth and honesty and morals, and that's what we need to turn this ship and get that headed there. And I know there's many good people out there that are aware of this and are ready and willing to take that. But I just wanted to let people know too, to morals is the moral of the story.
Right? What's the phrase? Moral rectitude,
Yeah.
moral uprightness.
Yes.
Uh, yep, that's another geometric term, I suppose. Yeah, man. So it's time to be our best,
That's
and
right. Step up.
that's right. Grab your role and be the driver, and help make this happen.
And March 4th, right? Well, the truth.
There it is. Coming soon. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
next week.
we'll
That's
cover that.
next week.
We'll cover that maybe next time we get together, right, Ron? So, if you have any other questions there, Brad, you think we've covered this enough, and we can end it here and pick up on another video and check out some more places.
I think your quote that you said multiple times, and just a minute ago again, the moral of the story is morals. So I think we'll have that as an ongoing theme, and dabble into that a little more as we substantiate the depth and the importance of this work that you've recovered. This template. So yeah, let's wrap her up there, and
Okay.
we're gonna do a whole lot more, but we wanted to introduce as this news is coming out, so we can stick with it, and uh, bring attention to what you've done and the importance of this work, and where it could lead us, in the positive realm for the future. So yeah,
Yep.
great place to wrap it up. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to listen, and I hope that this will help elevate our understanding and knowledge of the past. And I think it's coming out in the perfect timing here, where we have so many new things happening this year that I look forward to having the next conversation, and look forward to working with other people out and to show them how this template ties into their research as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That'll be coming soon, as the template research group reaches out to others, and yeah, makes the team much larger here.
And anyone out there, I just like to add here too, anyone out there who's interested in this research, can get a hold of us, and if they have their own ongoing research and they think it ties in and would like to get together, what we'd like to have is a uh, have guests on, and Brad and I could talk with guests and their research, and we can discuss how the template works with their research, and just build this out to share it into the other disciplines that are involved directly in this model. So it's exciting times, man.
Well, I know Trevor's super busy, but yeah, maybe we'll get him in here, and
Yeah,
he'll probably broaden the perspective of, allowing other people to see how their research was going to tie in also. So yeah, look forward to talking to Trevor soon.
no doubt. So
Cool, man.
great. Well, we'll wrap this
All
one
right,
up.
let's wrap it
We'll get
up.
together. We'll get together next week or so, and we'll see where we can go from there. Right.
All right, Template
Sweet.
Research Group out.
All right. Take care.